Welcome back to another episode with Mystic Scales and Fae
And
Tales
Fae Tales
podcast.
podcast.
I'm one of your hosts, Jennifer,
And I'm your other host, Leigh. And
and
this
we
is
are.
PETA.
Is the cat there? Oh, I didn't even see it.
Yeah, she just like meowed. Um,
Oh, I hope we caught that. Okay, well, this is PETA, our guest, Lee's cat, and we are a fantasy, dystopian, and romance podcast. Welcome back.
Yay.
You have been here before, and welcome if it's your first time. So, we
Yeah.
have a very special. I feel like I start every episode with saying it's special because to us
It
it's
is
special.
special.
But it's a full length episode. So we do 2 full length episodes a month that are 60 minutes, and then 2 mini episodes that are about 30 minutes. And they cover different aspects of books and media. We are currently in the middle of the Grishaverse. So it's all these books by Leigh Bardugo in this universe. So that is Six of Crows duology, Shadow and Bone trilogy, and King of Scars duology, plus the novellas, plus the TV show. So it's a lot of
Yeah.
media and to
Yes.
consume. We've been doing it with our book club that has about over 600 members, about 650. So excited to always
On
shout out the
the
book
app
club.
Fable. Yep.
Yeah, because we're on the app Fable. And so if you want to read along with us in this, we are currently in the last book of the King of Scars duology, which is Rule of Wolves, and then we'll wrap it up. But today is another episode that leans into that whole universe because as we finished Six of Crows and Shadow and Bone, we decided to take a stab at the TV show Shadow and Bone, produced by Netflix, that was unfortunately canceled. But
Yeah.
since we had read both the books, we felt that it was a great time to go back and finally watch the TV show. We did a mini episode already this past month of our first reactions, so make sure to go check that out. We watched season 1 and gave some of our reactions. Then we finished the show. Now we watched season 2. We also read the Demon in the Wood graphic novel prequel, which is
Yeah.
also about the Darkling, that was dedicated to Ben, who is the actor who plays the
Mm-hmm.
Darkling in the TV show. So we kind
Mm-hmm.
of did like a full circle moment right now. So that's what today's episode is going to be all about. We're going to be reviewing the whole TV show as a whole, a full breakdown, season 1, season 2, our reactions, the connections to the media, the things we love, the things we didn't love. And so spoilers ahead for everything I mentioned, all of the books, and of course, the TV show.
So much. Yeah. It's so funny you mentioned that it was canceled. Um, Unfortunate that it was canceled, especially for all the actors and producers and such. Um, but we're in the middle of Rule of Wolves, so the last book in the King of Scars duology, the last book pretty much
Full
of
length
everything.
book, yeah.
Full length, yes. And I keep like thinking about the show and being like, oh man, like I wonder where they're gonna go with, oh wait, we'll never know. Like it got canceled.
Which is funny because now that like we've been doing this, like our Instagram, like because we have an Instagram for this podcast and we both have access to it. The feed on my end when I open it is like all the people that like just like videos, and they'll be like, "We'll never," like it'll be like the TV show like in the background. They're like, "We'll never be able to hear Zoya's story," or "We'll never be able to see Nikolai. We'll never be able to see
Right.
this." And I'm just like, "Oh
Right.
yeah, that is in the King of Stars duology." So it was
Yeah.
just really funny seeing all that because I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. I agree with you guys. Now I
I know.
relate.
I think it's funny. Like algorithms are crazy, and the way that ours has like given us all this content when I feel like this is such like a small like
A
segment of the
niche.
world, right?
Yeah.
Especially because like this show didn't get canceled this year, like it wasn't new necessarily, like the last 5 years, yes, but and how we found them, they found us. I just think it's amusing.
Literally, I feel like I like posted one thing and then I went on Instagram and like everything was about the Shadow Mode TV show. And I was like, people just like, is this like a renaissance happening right now because of
Crazy.
like, Lee being around and doing her stuff? Or is it like just us? Like we just like manifested it.
Wasn't there one video too that like it was like every year after and Shadow and Bone? It was something
Yeah.
like how did that like get a second season but like Shadow and
Yes.
Bone didn't? And I was like, what are the chances that because we reviewed that, we read every summer after and then we watched the TV show begrudgingly every year after. And I was just like, it's just so crazy that those two in this time came together for us.
Literally, it was like people were like listening to the podcast or something. It was crazy.
But I loved
Um,
it.
I loved it too. So I'm excited to keep seeing it on our dashboards, and I think the hope is to keep posting about it. Maybe it'll get repicked up by another network, but I don't know. Oh, another ironic thing too was I sent to you was they were doing like a fan
Oh my
convention
God,
meetup.
yeah.
And it was all of the cast of Six of Crows, like all the crows were
Hmm.
there. And then I think like Nikolai was there and like some other Shadow and Bone people, but like it was like all of
Yeah,
this the Six of Crows. And you could like pay. And I've done those things for like Vampire Diaries and stuff, but it was
sure,
I sent it
yeah.
to you and I was like, should we go? And then it was like, oh wait, it's in Paris, so we couldn't
Paris.
go. And
If
I
it was
just
in
was
New
so
York,
jealous.
we would be there.
Oh my God, 100%. I was like, wait, that's so cool. I want to go meet all the crows. Like, I was like, imagine, like, what an iconic picture for Instagram.
Oh
But
my
yeah, it was in
God.
Paris. And so
Truly,
obviously we weren't in
truly.
Paris.
No, not
So
this
random.
year. If it was last year, we would have been like, sorry guys, we have a pit stop to make.
It's also such a random place for them all to be at. Like, you know what I mean? But I mean, it makes sense because, like, aren't they all, I'm assuming they're all, like, European because they
I mean,
all were
yeah,
British.
yeah, I guess that does make more sense.
So being in Europe,
Who
yeah,
knows?
but I guess I didn't put that together with Paris. But yeah, I guess the show was produced over there, maybe.
Maybe they filmed there. I didn't actually look up filming locations,
Me either. I didn't look up
but
if it was Netflix UK or
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
Netflix here. You know what I mean? Like like Heartstopper, the show and
Hmm.
movie is technically Netflix UK. So like things like that,
Okay,
it gets picked up
sure.
by our networks to put it on. So I didn't
That
look to
makes
see if it
sense.
was produced there. And then yeah, I guess that does make sense. And now we're like rashing on it, like Paris. Why the fuck are they in Paris? And then we're like, oh, actually, never mind. That makes sense.
They all live there. No, but
Literally.
we'll have to check it out if anyone is going to this event. We'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna just stalk the
And
event and just like put our faces in it.
I think it's in like October or something, so we got time.
I love it.
But yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
we're gonna
So
break it down.
this show.
This show. So we kind of recapped a lot of season one um in our first reaction episode, but as like just a quick recap, it's mainly covering book one. And actually it does all of book one. And it ends with Alina and Mal going onto the ship to Novia Zem. And unlike the show, unlike the book, they are not going out to like run away and try to live a normal life. They actually are going off for like reasons to still save the world, which is different.
Right.
And
Right.
then of course we have our Six of Crows cast already introduced. First episode, like off the jump of season one. They're giving a completely different backstory that we soon
Hmm.
learn is just like kind of a way for the show to let you see them build up their
Their
crew
characters.
and
Yeah,
their
yeah.
characters and like essentially like when you read the book you already know that there's backstory with Jasper. I feel like every time I'm thinking of a different book, but Jasper, Kaz, and Inej, and you know that like they had this bond and they trust each other, and then they get other people in the crew. But now when you're starting with
Yeah.
the show, you're kind of like seeing that built more.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Matthias and Nina's story, and so we're intertwined with them, but their stories are very much aligned with Shadow and Bone's story, where in the books they are completely separate for the most part.
Yeah.
They actually happen not at the same time. So it's important to note that because what ends up happening in season two with the Crow's story is a lot of their first and second book gets intermixed within
Yes.
this. So we
Yes.
get they decide to take out the Jurda Parem plot entirely because I think that they wanted to save that plot as we saw with the season two finale. They wanted to save it for
Hmm.
season three. So them taking it
Hmm.
out, they still needed to give Kaz and them like room to grow and have their things. So what they do is they take the plot from oh my god, what's the second one?
Crooked
Um
Kingdom.
Crooked Kingdom with in a mix of it of Pekka and him overthrowing Pekka and the whole him
Yes.
kidnapping the kid. And so they take different aspects of each book to make their
Yeah.
own plot. So all that to say, if you're expecting a translation of the Six of Crows duology, it's nowhere near that, but they do take aspects of it. So it's not like they just throw it out entirely. They just take different chunks and they like move it around in different puzzle pieces. And
Hmm.
what you would have gotten if we had gotten season 3 was the actual core heist of that first book would have then come to fruition. And then it might
Yeah.
have probably brought back Pekka because I think they were gonna do that whole like the rest of Pekka's downfall because they put Pekka in prison in
Hmm.
the Shadow and Bone show. So I feel like that's when they
Hmm.
would have eventually brought that back and then done the ending of the second book. But anyway, that was a lot
Just
of
a
me.
lot.
Yeah, but that's just, I think that's just really important to note. Like they pick and choose
Yeah.
what they want from each story and make it their
Yeah.
own in a way,
Yeah.
which isn't necessarily bad. I enjoyed it. It wasn't like I was like mad about it, but it just
No,
was
I
like
just
you were
think,
jarring at
yeah.
first to start it. Like
Yeah.
season 1 was jarring with them, and then season 2 you
Hmm.
were like, okay, I'm grounded in them. They're like actually the best part of the show.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah, what
agree.
did you think?
No, I agree. I definitely think season one was a bit of like whiplash where you're like, okay, like I know and love like all of these characters, but how do they fit together? And you're kind of like you're missing the heist because like that's what you love about Six of Crows. And you're trying to like marry that with what's going on with Alina and like what her battle is and her story and like I mean we talked I don't know if we talked about it on the last episode, but we definitely texted about like Kaz and the Darkling like meet up at one point and like fight and it was like, whoa. Never would I have imagined this
Yeah, you
because
kind of like
they're
this like suspended your belief a little bit of like, would this
yeah,
actually be successful?
right. So I think it definitely took me some time, but you like in both seasons you kind of like get to an episode where you hit a groove and then you're like, okay, like see where we're going, like I see the setup, like I'm ready. And like I just said, like by the end of it, you want more. Like you want the stories to continue. Um and I think I mentioned this last episode too, but it was so interesting to see that even like details of characters that are in the later books. So like even the Shadow and Bone, it's not just the trilogy. Like the show
Mm-mm.
covers like more because they're talking about Nikolai and they're talking about Zoya and like what their story is. So like this really is like an all-encompassing world and like if you're a reader and a fan of this series, like I feel like you would be a fan of the show just
Mm-hmm.
because it takes all of that into it. I think we could have another conversation about if it's like vice versa, if the show is as captivating and probably the answer is no and that's why it got canceled to like be as invested and understand everything that's happening because it is kind of a lot.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to adapt something though, right? Because like we're so used to a lot of these adaptations lately that um are not beat for beat, but you're taking like majority of the story, right? And that's what we want. Like we read this book and we're like we want to see
Yeah.
it in action. I want you to give me a little extra that I didn't think of or that I couldn't like see. Um and I think of that with like Remarkably Bright Creatures, the movie I just watched and read the book. And I was like, I want to see all of it. And then they added things, and I
Mhm.
was like, the things I loved that they added was perfect. But like with
Mhm.
this, you know, we've had our big discussion on the books. Check out all our episodes. And I don't think that I necessarily did want that for this. Like, I don't think I would have wanted a beat for beat of Shadow and Bone at all. Like, I think
Yeah.
that this change and that this idea that you take the entire universe of what exists and then you piece together your own story and intertwine them and make it a real universe that not you might not be able to do that within the writing or you weren't able to as the author originally set that up, right? Like if you hadn't
Mhm.
like written all the books at once, which she didn't and nobody ever does because it's also really
Mhm.
hard to do. um
Mhm.
like you could then go back and say like, oh, let's sneak this in. So we have to do a TV. You have to do a TV. You have to sneak in the Easter eggs and the foreshadowing because you can't just throw it at your reader later. And so I just think it's so cool like to adapt it that way and be like, let's see what we could change and not change. But you're
Mhm.
right. Like, did that then like put people off? I don't know because I think like if you take the book's out and we were just like watching the show for itself, which I think I asked you that last episode, like it was a little bit of a rough first season. Like it had to build
Mm-hmm.
up, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
they actually hit their stride in the second season. I very much enjoyed the second season. Every episode I was like I was glued to it. I was like so here for it. And I was like, dang, like they were just hitting their stride, but because they didn't reach their audience is what left
Yeah.
it. So it's just a little sad.
Yeah. It is. And then they definitely made changes to like character motivations and like character stories in order to like prolong them like through seasons. Like basically the end with Mal is not nearly the end in the book because they were like planning like he and Alina are separated at the end of season 2. Like they are not
Alina
together.
has her power still.
Yeah. And that is not what the story like that is not in our Shadow and Bone episodes. We came to the conclusion that that was not the purpose of the story. Like it was about the boy and the girl, remember?
Always about the
And the
boy and the girl.
show, I don't doubt that the show was going to get there, but I think that like because in all good TV, like the couple can't get together in the first season and stay happy because that's boring, right? So I think I saw a lot of like criticisms online too about like Mal's character. And
Really?
obviously, yeah, because obviously people are gonna be like the love triangle, and not even with Nikolai. It was with the Darkling, which I we've discussed. But the scene specifically, like Mal is talking about like, do they really love each other, or were they just like drawn together? And then the Darkling calls her my little saint, and everyone was like oohing and eyeing, like, oh, because he's like, the shadow daddy.
See that. Okay. Yeah.
No, and like we've been confused about that the whole time. But I just think because of the show getting canceled, like it did a disservice to these
To Mal.
characters. And it was like, I was like, I see where they were going, but they didn't get there. They didn't have
Yeah.
time.
And I think also to the point of like she still has her powers by the end of season 2. With the show, they couldn't do that. Like they can't just do
Yeah.
that. Like our main character just like goes away to
Doesn't,
run an orphanage with her
right,
soulmate. Like they can't just
right,
like do that and then be like, okay, this last season is about this character you met 5 episodes ago because they only introduced Nikolai in the second season. So it's
right.
like, yeah, you're right. And then as we are reading the King of Scars duology and not enjoying it, um, I think that they couldn't have just picked that story up without Alina. And I even sometimes I'm reading this and I'm like, why is Alina still not here? Like, you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
know Alina's gone and she's no use to them as we're reading this King of Scars duology. But with this introduction and the King of Scars duology, again, readers and listeners, we have not gotten to the end of it, but from what we read from book
right.
1, the Darkling comes back. So it's like we're just all
Yeah,
like, what was the point of the trilogy for nothing? So,
right,
and I think with the TV show, that's the aspect that they want to keep because they're like, oh, the Darkling's dead. Oh, is he? And she's still there and she has some darkness to her. Like, you have to
right.
then battle that and then you have, the rest of the show to do it. So it makes sense. Like, if they have, even if they ended up introducing the Nikolai and the Saints and him and Zoya going on the phone and all that, like they're gonna have to like intertwine Alina into that story because that's what makes sense. She's the main character of the show. So like I get it. You have to keep her. Like we have to keep her. I get it. But it was
Yeah,
just like so it's just so yeah, I don't even remember where I started this. Like it's a lot to digest in that.
yeah, yeah. And I think again, it's just because like we have so much content and we know so much from the books that we're like, I see it, but like those are some big changes and
And I wish we did the opposite, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I kind
like
of
watch
wish
the
I
show
watched it
first.
first and then went back and read it and been like, oh, but I like how the TV show did this better. Or like,
Mm,
because now I feel like it's just all jumbled in my head, and I'm just like, they test you so much with this TV show, and like in terms of as a book reader, of like they change things, but then they don't. So like you'll get mad, and you
yeah,
don't get mad. You'll be like, wait, that's not how it happened, and then you're like, wait, but then they. they did include it later. So like they do include it, but
Yeah,
they include it at a different
yeah.
time that you're just like kind of like your head is like trying to
It is
piece it all together like a
weird.
puzzle. Like
Yeah.
it's just different. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I actually kind of enjoyed it. But I think that maybe it's just because also we like just read and watched and read and watched. So like we've just been
Mm-hmm.
so intertwined into this
Mm-hmm.
this this world for the
Yeah.
last like couple months that it was a lot, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like I
Yeah.
wonder if this is how Game of Thrones fans feel. You know what I mean? Like they've read all
Mm.
their books and like I love Game of Thrones and we love House of Dragons. We've watched all of the media, but I don't consume the books because I don't want to consume the books because I know if I did, like I know that the first season is like the book and then after the first season I've
Yeah.
heard it just like completely does its own thing and it takes some
Yeah.
aspects but not all the aspects. And same with House of
Yeah.
Dragons. So it's like I feel like you'd be watching and be like, wait, but that's not how that happened. And but then they do it later, and you're like, oh, like it's a lot to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
battle against.
Yeah. It's funny because I did read all of Game of Thrones, but I do
You
not
read
remember
all of
most
Game
of
of
it.
Thrones? I
I
didn't
did.
know that.
Yeah, but I do not, like, genuinely do not remember most of it because it it truly is so much. Like, there's so many names, there's so many like drawn out scenes, there's so much death and like gore. And because
So
like
I'm shocked that you read it.
even in the show, I remember being shocked when John died. And I was like, you idiot, like you read this, like you should have remembered, but I just couldn't keep it all in my brain, I
I mean, like
guess.
John's like what's her name? Catherine Stark dies, and didn't she come back to life in the books? But she doesn't come back to life in
Yeah.
the shows. Like
Yeah,
that
she's
happens
like a
with a lot of different
creepy.
things.
I do remember that part. There's like some things that I remember, but obviously, yeah, there's just so much happening. So, and would I go back when the new one comes out, whenever that is? I'm not sure, but we'll
Mm.
just have to see.
It's interesting though.
Um,
Like I wonder if for other media that we read that's like fantasy, how do you feel like for adaptions? Like, do you, I mean, this is something I could have asked you at the end of the episode, but like, I think it'd be fun because we're already talking about it. Before we break down the episodes. Like because of this idea that this is a fantasy that they took different aspects of every part of the story and intertwined them in a new way for like future fantasy adaptions, is that the way you would like to see it or do you want to see it for beat? Because I think it's different when we watch these
it's a good
adaptations that are
question.
the rom-coms or the
Yeah.
romances or the just like fiction that's like heart-wrenching or even thrillers because you can't really restructure a thriller, you ruin the suspense of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like we don't expect that, but for these, they kind of have the freedom to do that, and it's like, how do you
So
feel about
true.
that? Especially with the big one coming, Fourth Wing.
Fourth wing, yeah. No, that is an excellent question. And I feel like normally I'm a purist and I wouldn't want that. But I really do think it worked with this one. And what I found so interesting about this one is like Leigh Bardugo got to like almost like rewrite her story.
Mm-hmm.
Like she kind of got to play with an alternate universe almost. Like what if I had done this instead? And I feel like based on like what we heard from her at BookCon, like it kind of sounded like she wanted that, like a redo, like not a redo, but like a refresh on her first story. Um, so that like that concept is like interesting to me, and the fact that it worked in this. I think, I guess with fantasy, it kind of makes sense to be able to weave in things from the future. I mean, especially I feel like with Fourth Wing, um, it'll be all the tells about like Violet's signet and like Xaden's like second signet and like things like that that they'll have to like weave in um like smartly. Um
And I think that's what's going to be interesting when it comes out because I think that the mass audience that reads these books and only reads these books is going to be upset about because
yeah.
I think they're going to be
Yeah.
expecting a beat for beat of like,
Yeah.
well, this didn't happen then. And then it's like, but as we're discussing this one as a great example to it, it's like you can't necessarily always do that because you need foreshadow in a show. And it's not
Mhm.
like these books don't have foreshadow. Of course, books have foreshadow,
Right,
but there's
right.
different aspects of, especially when you're trying to explain a magic system or magical creatures, that you kind of need to do as
Yeah.
you're watching it. And unlike the biggest example of this is Harry Potter. Like, that they were coming out with the movies as the books were coming out, right? And it still worked out in the end, but there were plenty of
Mhm.
clear foreshadow to Voldemort and
Mhm.
Harry's connection when you go back and watch the movies. And now they're doing them again as a TV show because of the fact that they actually have everything to work with. The story is complete. And so it's going to be interesting with the aspect of Fourth Wing, and that's like the biggest fantasy I can think of that they're doing right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And they are picking up some other ones, have been picked up to development, like Shield of Sparrows got picked up for development, and
Mhm.
a bunch of other big fantasies. But it's that one because it's still going on top of it, and yeah, and I wonder if Rebecca Yarros, the author of that, will be similar to what Leigh Bardugo's is, because I agree with you that it was like, it feels like it was a redo, but it also doesn't feel necessarily like fully a redo because she doesn't go back on anything that she came up with, right? She doesn't change
Yeah.
her ideas. She likes her
Yeah.
ideas and she likes the foundation, but I think it's more of kind of what I mentioned at the beginning. Like, she didn't go into this thinking I'm gonna write what is it? 6 books, 7, how many books is it total? 7 books, right? Like, she didn't go
Yeah.
into this thinking I'm gonna just write all 7 books and I have the whole universe
Right.
plotted and I have everything,
Right.
whatever. Especially as we're reading King of Scars duology, it seems like she has to like reintroduce things and put things, like, try to connect them and whatever. And it's just like, but she has to work within the framework that she already gave herself, and that's challenging to
Mhm.
do because you're like,
Mhm.
oh, if I only had done it this way. But she's not going back on any
Mhm.
of her ideas. It's just the framework of things. So with the
Mhm.
TV show, she's able to take the framework of all of her ideas from the entire universe and
Yeah.
rework them to make it a more streamlined story that, which I think I asked you the last episode, like, if they had the option to not republish them, but publish them as like a side thing with like the TV covers and whatever. It's like, would they
Mm.
have done that and shown that story? And so, yeah, it'll be
Mm.
interesting to see with Fourth Wing if that's the decision that Rebecca Yarros and Michael B. Jordan producing it and all of them decide to go with.
Right.
Are we doing it B for B, or are we doing it a mix of B for B with like restructuring? Or are we going to just like restructure and take different aspects of it? It's
Yeah.
hard to adapt something like that.
Yeah, especially like because she has 3 more books to write. Is it 5 or 6?
I
Remind
think it's
me.
5.
Okay, so she has 2 more
Well,
books to write.
yeah, I think it's 5, yeah.
Um, but it's plotted, so uh I do think
Yeah.
she'll be very involved. I think it'll be good to have her involved. Um,
And
and
you know, they just did
I,
the graphic novel too, so they already restructured the
yeah,
story.
yeah, that's true. And she's gonna put out the Threshing Day, so she has more like background and stuff, and like they can pull from that too. Um, I don't know. It's gonna
I
be
know.
interesting.
It's a good discussion to have of like book
It is.
adaptations. And this is a
It
great
is.
way for me to shout out our next mini episode, actually, is another book adaptation, because we
Yeah.
have just watched The Odyssey, directed by Christopher Nolan, and did a little
Hmm.
refresh on the poem that we've read before, but just refreshing it. So this will be a great way to talk about that one, because I don't want to go into detail about it here because we're gonna have a whole episode about it. But that's one where I think that they took the original text, didn't necessarily reframed it. It's not fully beat for beat, but they put a twist on the meaning of it. And that
Mm.
was cool. And that I
Mm.
haven't seen in a very long time with an adaptation of
Hmm.
not necessarily changing the story, but changing the perspective of what you see the story as.
Yeah.
That was cool. And I was like, whoa, imagine if we saw that with these other books that we're seeing, like changing the
Yeah.
perspective of what you think, because there's
Yeah.
so many ways to view media, right? So many ways to view it and digest it. And like, I might have read it one way and took something away, and you might have read it one way. But that's where I'm like,
Hmm.
are the mass audience gonna get upset by that? Because like, they want it to be what they read Fourth Wing as, you know?
Right. Right.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a little daunting, I think, for them because it is such a beloved franchise. And And I mean, even down to the casting, like people are wild about who they want, who they don't want, all those things. Like freaking Emily Henry's Beach Read is getting hacked to pieces because of who they cast. And I just like, I don't even like that book. Yeah, I don't even like that book, but I feel bad. I'm like, let the movie have a chance.
It's so funny that we're talking about this and like adaptions and like the piecing together, but like I wonder how we would have felt like Hunger Games. Like, I mean, we still have it obviously with adaptions that are coming
Well,
now.
we,
With
yeah, we do.
Sunrise and Ballad, but I guess because Francis Lawrence, like the directors of those, it just feels so rooted in the books. Like even though it's
Yeah,
not, because even Ballad
yeah.
was not beat for beat. There was so much of Ballad that was
No.
missing, which made sense.
Mm-hmm.
That book was so long,
It
and
was.
I don't know what we expect from the movie for Sunrise either. And it's just like,
Mm,
I guess that's the
yeah.
question of like, do you need it to be beat to beat, or are we changing things? And I feel like with Hunger Games adaptations too, they don't necessarily change things to a lot. Like they kind of just don't include some stuff, but they
Yeah.
don't necessarily change things. Like obviously, like the big thing is like they changed Peeta's disability and Katniss's disability. They don't mention it as much. Like there's some big
Right.
aspects that they do change, but like
Hmm.
the core story stays the same, and there's not
Yeah.
that's beat for beat. So it's like it's
Yeah.
so interesting with all these different adaptations. So you can each one is just different. It's just different.
It's true. Yeah. I feel like, yeah, with the Hunger Games, they kept the tone,
Yes.
and like the message. And I feel like that was the most important parts to us. I mean, obviously, there are like smaller moments that maybe we wish we saw or whatever. Uh, but overall, and I also just think we love it so much that we're a little forgiving. So that's okay too.
Yeah.
Um,
We're a little
but
biased.
I,
So
yeah,
I
I think
wonder,
it's
that
a,
leads me to that option of with fantasy, what's the important thing? Is it the tone? Is it the message? Is it the world, the fantastical aspect of it, or is it a little bit of everything?
yeah, because I think you're right that like the rom-coms, what we want is the nuances of the story. We want their moments getting to know each other, like showing their characters. And that's where the ones that we've had issues with like are lacking. But this, yeah, I think maybe because it is fantasy that there is more like room to play with things. Um,
Because do you feel like with Shadow and Bone, with this TV show, do we lose any of those aspects? Like to that question of like the tone or the message or the fantastical world, or is it kind of a great adaptation where it keeps all of that within this? I'm gonna let you answer that first.
I want to know what you think.
I think I think they take out some of it. So I think that they keep the world of it in terms of what I think it would look like and feel like. I especially love that we visit a lot of different places. Like we visit Shuhan, and we
Mm-hmm.
never do in the books. So like to visit that in
Mm-mm.
the show was so interesting. And Novia Zem, we got more of that. Um
Mm-hmm.
and obviously more time in Rabka. And I think that the aspects, the looks of it, the magic is interesting. I think that it actually kind of fits the books because it's just as confusing as the books are.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I do think like some of the bigger tones and messages were either stretched out, like we're saying, like maybe they're trying to do more of. My biggest thing is the aspect of religion, and we talked about that in the
Mm-hmm.
books adaptation, and how we love the way that she does this, and she's actually really touching on it even more with the King of Scars duology, and Nina's aspect of using the religion and using
Yeah.
this idea of making the Grisha saints to change people's opinions of the Grisha, even though they're
Mm-hmm.
not saints. Um, well, some of them are. It's confusing.
It is.
But it doesn't make sense. So I think that like I understand them taking it out because it is confusing within the books, but then I truly love the way that she intertwined it the author Leigh in the second and third book of Shadow and Bone with the apparat and the
Mm,
power of religion. And all of these books are questioning power, who deserves power, and what it means to rule within the power. And obviously like the dark versus light, but it's not really about that fully, because Alina's also tempted to the darkness and Alina's tempted to the light,
right.
and they do show that aspect of it where she says things of like feeling things and whatever. But I think like that tone was lost, and like how, especially like when we get to Nikolai's books and him being like he has to keep the apparat and the faith on the side because the society could crumble, and it's showing the how
Yeah.
fragile their society is. I don't necessarily know
Yeah.
if I feel that within the show. I don't know if that's something they were leading up to with the next season, but I think
Yeah.
that was an aspect that was lost. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of the Darkling obviously has changed a lot in the books and the TV show, and we're still getting his like this author likes to play around, like you said, it's her favorite character,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you could tell that she likes to do that, but because of that, as we're watching the TV show, you're like, what? And so like I think some of the tones are lost throughout, but
Yeah.
I think some of them are picked up in
Yeah.
different ways. Like the episode of this that key episode that I know for you was pivotal in this season with them, I think it was like episode 5 or 6 or something, with the Crow's family out on that adventure getting and they have like their trip when they get poisoned and like all the different things. It's
Mm.
so emotional. What a moving episode on both aspects of the Crows and the Shadow and Bone story. And so
Hmm.
like that's something we're not seeing as much. And there are some aspects of the messages of Crows of the books that are in the show, but again, not fully
Hmm.
there yet. So I think it's
Hmm.
it's a mix. It's a mix.
Yeah. Yeah. I think yeah, my brain is a little like jumbled on it, and I think that might just be a testament that like there
Mm-hmm.
is some loss. I think I'm not sure like I fully understood the Darkling in the show or like grasped what he wanted exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh I feel like maybe he was a little more selfish in the show, because even in this duology that we're in now with him like coming back, like his whole like what his purpose was is being flung at us again, and I don't know if I could pinpoint a moment in the show where he like expressed that enough. I'm sure there is, maybe when he's talking to Zoya that one time and she like comes on to him and we were like, ew, what's happening? Um, I don't know. He's definitely ruthless. They did a really good job of showing that. I think, yeah, I think just towards the end, things were starting to come together and it made more sense and it fit more with this like tone idea.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
So okay.
I think, sorry, I was just gonna say, to your point, like they do show the apparat at the end. So I think you're right. I think they were gonna like set up something,
Yeah, I
and we
was
didn't get
really
that.
confused by his non-appearance throughout this, and the droppage of um Tolia and Tamar's dedication to Alina because of their
Oh,
religion.
yeah.
Well, they
Yeah. I
did that with
wonder.
Inej instead.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if they were like, "Oh, religion, that's a fine line." I don't
Maybe. But I feel like in her books, it's not about the actual religion, though. It's about the power of what religion can hold over society.
Right, right. And I mean, back to Game of Thrones. Um, you
Cersei.
yeah, and just like even in House of the Dragon, like Rhaenyra is questioning the High Septon and the purpose of having the faith, and I think we may have touched on that in one of our recent episodes. Um, but it is a present conversation, and it's showing up in other fantasy worlds too. So.
Because if you
I
have a
don't know.
religion, you can That's literally in Shield of Sparrows. That's the plot of the second book they discover is that their
Yeah.
religion that these evil people created
Yeah.
took over the world.
Yeah.
Like it's a huge idea. It's you're creating an ideology. That's what Nina's doing in six of and the
Yeah.
second duology of King of Scars. So yeah, it's just interesting for me. I guess
Yeah.
maybe that's why I was like so passionate about that plot line and I loved it. And I was so mad that it
Yeah.
was like deleted
Not. Yeah.
from this. Let's do
Yeah.
some breakdowns. I have a lot of notes. So let's do some
Okay.
breakdowns.
I love the notes.
Um, I love taking them when we do them. I think that I wrote already the first bullet point is that the quality was already better for the look of
Oh,
the
from
show.
season one.
Yeah. Even though their CGI budget still was trash. Like I think I sent you a picture and I was like, this doesn't even look like they're flying.
Yeah.
Or I was like, this looks like like a stage
A
background, like they're in this
soundstage. Yeah.
soundstage.
Yeah.
So yeah, our biggest thing that is different that we mentioned a little bit was that Mal and Alina are actively trying to still save Ravka. They're looking for the sea whip. Where in the book that's not what happens. Like Alina and Mal are on the run, and then the Darkling finds them because they use the hairpin to pay their way, which they still do here. They don't learn their lesson about that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then he kidnaps her to look for the whip, and then they find the whip with the Darkling, and then they're saved by Nikolai. So it's completely different in the book, where here
Hmm.
they are saved by Nikolai because they're running, which I appreciated when they were in Novia Zem. Like they both got discovered in their own ways of like he's running from the army, and then she is on the run as a saint.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's true.
the one thing that this season did was it wanted to make sure you were very much aware of Kaz's trauma. There was no
Oh.
way to avoid it. And
Yes.
they literally want to poke at your heartstrings more. Where in the book, like it's there, obviously, but like when you come to learn about it, you're just like heartbroken. You're thinking about it forever. Here, they wanted
Yeah.
to just like every episode twist your heart.
Yeah.
So we kind of kept getting that, which was
Yeah.
a lot to watch as an audience member. Our biggest thing with Sturmhond, I wrote it down. The color of his hair is wrong. So in this TV show, they said, which is so dumb. They just like changed his outfit and his part of his hair, and they're like, "Whoa, it's
Ta-da!
Nikolai." And I think
Yeah.
it's because like nobody knew what Nikolai looked like was what they were trying to say. Like people don't really know what he looks like. And nobody like knew who Sturmhond was like, for his crew, so like you wouldn't connect them. But like they purposely said in the books, like he's tailored by his Grisha to
Yeah.
look differently. And in the fan art,
Yeah.
you could see he has like ginger hair as Sturmhond, and he has like blonde hair as Nikolai. And like they
Hmm.
changed, like I think Elaine even mentions it, like they changed his nose, or they change, like she
Right.
notices the details. And in this, they didn't do that, and I was like, guys, we could have just done that. Like that was really weird.
Yeah.
Mal and Alina's like goal in the end, like they keep telling her, there's like, when we're done with this all, we're gonna explore the world together and
Right,
see it
right,
all.
right.
That's not them in the books. In the books, they're
No.
very much like, I want to have a life on a farm and no one ever talk to us again.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
um, we got to see Novia Zem, which was great, and they explained that in Novia Zem, the Grisha are blessed there, so it's like another safe haven
Mm-hmm,
for
mm-hmm,
Grisha,
mm-hmm.
which is not the aspects of the books. The only like real safe haven is Ravka, even though it's not really ever safe because you have to join the war. Um, me and you both texted us that we thought the twins had an absolutely iconic entrance, Tolina and
Oh,
Tamar.
we did
Um,
love them. Yeah.
also since we're on the twins, we pronounce it Tamar. The audiobook pronounces it Tamar. The show pronounces it Tamar. And I did not understand. I immediately texted Lee and I was like, I've been saying her name wrong. And then I'm listening to Rules of Wolves today, and they're like, Tamar. And I sent you it, and I said,
They're
they
like,
just
wait,
changed it. I was like, we were never wrong. They just
nope.
changed it. It is
Yep.
Tamar. The crows get back, and they're accused of killing Tanta Helene. Not
Oh
something in the
yeah.
books at all. Completely
No.
different, but that's why they're on the run from Pekka and from like the Kirch government and stuff, which is why they were trying to intertwine it with the second book in aspects. They are on the run in the second book, but for totally different things. But again, they took out the Jodha Param plot, so you had to make it something else.
Yeah.
And we finally meet our baby Wylan, season
We did.
2.
Yeah.
Perfect casting, by the way.
He was pretty good. I missed his background though. Like
But it was
who his
starting to
dad
go in
was.
there.
I know.
He
I
started
love
to.
yeah. I love the nuances that Kaz does with him. So I was really like
Well,
there were
they're
some
saving it. I
things.
think you could clear that they were
Yeah.
saving it because what they did was they still had the he can't read because they got their
Hmm.
passports and then Jasper was like you can't
Hmm.
read it. And then when he Jasper had to ask him about um his knowledge of the bombs, he was like, "Well, my and he started to say tutor, and then
Yeah.
he went back and went just trial and error." And he's like, "Trial and
Yeah.
error," but then obviously also he knows to play the piano and things. So they were alluding to it very much that he
Yeah.
had a background that's not just like growing up in the streets of Ketterdam. So I was like,
Right.
"Oh, they're building to this because they're gonna probably most likely they had to use it. They had to save that plot." For when they eventually would have done the heist and eventually would
Right.
have done the taking down Pekka from brick by brick because they don't
Yeah.
really take him down in this. They send him to
No.
Hellgate.
Yeah.
Um, the world sees Alina as a villain as well, which is so different from the books. In the books,
Mm.
they immediately just see her as a saint. But
Hmm.
because here people saw her with the Darkling, some people think that she's also evil because
Mm.
they expanded the fold. They added this aspect of after the fold expanded that the Grisha were being hunted and killed by the First Army. What do you think of that? That was like kind of gruesome.
I mean, yeah, I think they were trying to like, because that's kind of built up in Crooked Kingdom, right? When they have well, I don't know how you say it, the cure guard or whatever, the winged guys
Oh, the
that
people they
hunt
test
the
on.
Grisha. Yeah. So I guess I just assumed they were kind of like shifting to that. Um,
I assumed it was just for a motivation for people to join the Darkling side. Because I think that when we even read the book, we knew that people were joining the Darkling side because they were scared of him. Maybe in the TV show they wanted to give people like more than just being scared of him.
yeah. I I felt like his army and his like following was a little weak, especially like we commented on that girl.
Don't know who
Still
she
don't
is to
know
this
her
day.
name.
That
Yeah,
that girl that
but
we're referencing is his general that he randomly had, which I get it, he has so general. And
yeah,
she controlled the wind or water, one of the two. I forgot
she
which one she
was
does.
water because then she could like make it into
The
ice, and it
ice.
was like, oh, hot
Hmm.
damn, like she can make powerful like
Hot
ice.
dog.
Like I was like, this is stupid. And then I remember there was one time they were trying to like rile people up and they were like, look what they did to this guy who was like the like older man and he had
The
like burns
Heartrender.
on his face. Yeah. And I was like, okay, like he don't look that bad.
No, I think I texted you. I was like, he only has like 6 Grisha. Like how? And then like they shot
Yeah.
to another scene where there was more of them, and I was like,
There's a bunch.
okay. I
Yeah.
was like, he cannot take 6 Grisha. And like the thing that they changed, which we'll get to, is they changed Bagra's death, and they
Hmm.
use her ashes, and I was like, that's so fucked up
Yeah.
as an
Yeah.
amplifier. But whatever.
I thought that guy who was like helping the Darkling like in the lab and stuff, I thought that was gonna be Kuwei the from the future, but that's not
Oh
his
no, you're saying
name.
Shuhan. No, yeah,
Yeah.
so not
So I
from
was
there.
like,
Like
yeah, I was like, oh, that would have been like a good introduction, I thought. But I mean,
mm.
he probably wasn't old enough, but whatever.
Also, he's not evil. Like they didn't do anything
Well,
evil.
I mean, he wasn't being evil. He was just kind of doing what the Darkling, he was just a scientist. Like, he
Yeah,
was
but
just doing what the Darkling said.
you could tell he was a scientist that also liked what he was doing and wanted to like read the journals and wanted to learn all this and he had an opinion to give the Darkling, where David was just a scientist that was following along but still had a moral compass. Speaking of David and Nina, I mean, sorry, Jenya, how did you think of Jenya's appearance? Like, how did you think of her in this? Because you hated her first season. How did you think of her second season?
I don't think she was the right person to be cast in this role. So I still stand by that. Um, and I don't think her appearance quotes was that horrible. Like,
Mm.
I don't know. I was expecting, like, You know when you see like Quasimodo and like he's truly like not human or like truly deformed, like that's what I envision. And I guess they just didn't have the budget for it. I don't know. I was not.
Yeah, because she's not broken her body though, but she's just scarred all over.
Yeah. And she's supposed to be this like drop dead gorgeous girl and has been reduced to like what she feels is like truly hideous. I just didn't. I didn't buy
But
it.
I didn't mind it as much. We keep the Pekka's accountant story and them trying to track down the accountant to get his information, but Pekka's ahead of them in that. That's from the second book, and they put this into this show. They keep obviously the frequency that Miles hears to find all of the amplifiers. The biggest thing is Bagger still has eyes. She does not lose her eyes. She loses her finger. They do that, but she does not
Mm-hmm.
lose her eyes, which I
Mm-hmm.
understand that that would have been really hard for them to go on their journey, all three of them, if she was blind. Um,
Yes.
interesting.
Yes.
They hunt the whip. It goes pretty fast, as it does in the book. But they do add the fact that the whip sees Mal in their last vision as a
Mm-hmm.
foreshadow to
Mm-hmm.
what's to come.
Yeah.
And he calls her my Alina in the show too. Um, I think that's the Darkling. That's I wrote that down. Episode 3, I wrote Kaz backstory again. Like literally every episode was Kaz's
I
backstory.
can.
Um, they keep that Alina is still afraid of flying when she first goes up in the boat, which is so cute.
Mm-hmm.
They keep Tolia's love for poems. He says a line
Mm-hmm.
of "I would rather a hot bath and a book of sonnets." So he still is obsessed with that. They still crash land when they first go in the boat when they are with uh Stormhound for the first time, and after that, Alina does punch him as she does in the book, which is great. Um,
She does.
and they of course keep the Darkling and Alina visions to each other.
Mm-hmm.
They don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily keep the fact because they change up like where they end up going. Like they don't go to the little palace. They go to this different hold that Nikolai has. They change up the fact that she in the book like sees him everywhere and like starting to go like a little stir
Yeah.
crazy. They don't
Yeah.
add that in the show necessarily, even though like that was kind of interesting. Not gonna lie, that was interesting in the book. And with the big fight that we get eventually of the Darkling coming to attack, they take out that whole thing that you hated with the dishes of like David builds these dishes and they reflect
Oh
her
my
light off
God.
of it and it makes no sense.
Yeah,
They thankfully took that out, which was
that would not
great.
have worked. Yeah. Or
Um,
like her reflecting light around people to hide. No.
didn't they
No.
took it out, which made sense. But they do have her and Nikolai get engaged, which do they do that fully in
Yeah.
the book? No, right? She never says yes. They
Yeah.
trance them around together. That's what they do. So like
Yeah.
every
But they're
appearance they're
never
together, but they're never
right.
announced as engaged. And they do
Right.
here. And they keep that all the way to the end. Um
Yeah.
Thankfully Vasily still dies. And it's his
And it
own
was still
fault.
nasty. Yep.
It was still nasty, his own fault, because he let people know where they were. Which was kind of similar to the book. That was Vasily's fault that they were able to break like a certain blockade that they had like in the line of Firda. So that was
Mm-mm.
interesting. Um, they keep like a similar line of the Darkling saying the trick is to not love anything, which I think was cool. They had some like lines that were the same for the Darkling, which I liked. We
Mm-hmm.
still get the emerald ring that's given to Alina. We get the iconic line, "You are my flag, you are my nation" from Mal, which I loved
Hmm.
that. Don't know if you caught that, but I loved
I
it.
did
He
not.
did. He
No.
says it to her in episode 4. He says, "You are my flag, you are my nation," because she's talking about Ravka. And I was like, oh my God, they keep that from the book.
They said something too about being a weapon, but I think he
He
says
says
like
that.
being the country's weapon,
Mm,
which it made it like more like broad. And I thought it worked because like in the show because I thought it gave him more like purpose. And
mm.
I think it was a little more understandable like why he goes off to like again find his purpose. Um and not just be like her sword as he gets
And he kind of
tattooed.
has to in the book, in the show, because in the book, remember, she loses her power. So they both lose it. And they have that beautiful part in the epilogue where they talk about the teachers looking at them because sometimes they randomly see her just looking up at the sun and feeling the rays of it, or he's walking
Yeah.
around and looking out. And like, it's so beautiful because they both miss like that part of their lives, but they find a new purpose together. But in the show, they can't do that because she still has her power. So like, it was weird at first. We're like, what the hell? Why is Mal doing this? But it made
Yeah.
sense. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's what they would have done eventually. Um,
I think so. I think the whole point was that he went off and she helped save the country and then they would come back together.
yeah. They keep the festival from crows, which is in the second book, I think, with the mask and everything. They
Hmm.
have, okay, so this is a cool shot they did. They have David explain when David comes back and he's just like, oh my God, listen to me, guys. He's explaining the Nichivoya and the Shadow Man. And it was so cool. In the scene, as he's doing it, it cuts to Nikolai's face. And I thought that was a clear foreshadow for what to come of
Mm.
Nikolai
Hmm.
becoming part with the Nichivoya. So that was so cool. They keep the fake sickness plot from the second Six of Crows that Kaz does a false alarm of the sickness. They put that in this. So this is another thing of like them taking parts of the Crow story and putting in different things. And they also briefly mentioned the Council of Tides very quickly in one line, which I was like, I caught that. In the beginning of each episode, they had like a little like cool like putting the name and like a little
Yeah, that was cool.
animation. And see,
Yeah.
episode 5 specifically, I loved. They had the 6 like crows, and one of them had a little cane. It was
Oh.
Cass. It was in his mouth. He was holding the cane.
That's
So
cute.
cute. I absolutely love that. They do keep Adric loses his arm, but it is differently
Hmm.
in the book. He loses it in that final scene that we get at the end of the show, but in this one, he loses it when the Darkling does the attack post engagement party. And I kind of love that they did it differently. They do it a lot differently with Adric and his sister Nadia, where it said that like Adric like relearned how to use his powers with his one hand. In this, they do a cool thing where because like they're siblings, they like put their arms together and they're able to do the power
Hmm.
together, which is
Yeah, that was cool.
so interesting. So that was really cool. Again, episode 5, I wrote again. They're really traumatizing us with Cass's stories, like every episode. Um, we get like a lot of Zoya and Nina moments, which was great. The crows get they take down Pekka in a very interesting way that's the same as I said from the second book where they have him admit that they didn't do anything wrong, and then they get the club, and they mention we meet Kaz's the other guy that their boss, that's Kaz's boss, quote unquote. Like, oh my God,
I was
Matt.
having a really hard time remembering.
He fights
Yeah,
him in the
because there's
second book.
Pekka and then there's
Per Haskell.
yes.
It's for
Yeah.
Haskell. So they keep him in here as like his club was like where all the like the leftover people went or whatever, of people that like dropped out of other clubs. And
Yeah.
Cass does take it over and he has the power of it. But I think they would have kept that for later to see how he eventually gets the true power of it.
Hmm.
Um Cass is constantly pushing Inej away because he loves her and not letting her go on certain things or trying to.
Hmm.
Um the king is dead. Also, like he died in that attack.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not the same from the books. Like the king does not
No.
die right away. I don't even know if he ever dies.
No, like literally, I just read that Nikolai says, "Oh, I exiled my parents." So like they're
Yeah.
still alive. They're just on
Yeah.
the Wandering Isle. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, interesting."
And then we get Jenya's story intertwined. She's talking because everyone there is like, why is this girl here? That she is talking about what happened to her, what she did. She faces off the queen, which I think was really powerful. That was the moment where I appreciated Jenya's writing, and I think it was great the way they did it. And I thought that like they did a great job of that shining. Um, and it was different, obviously, because the king's not there, but it was like such a
Hmm.
powerful moment of like, okay, this is what happened to her and why she did what she did. And then Nikolai
Yeah.
realizing it too.
Yeah, that was one moment that I was like, if you didn't read the books, how was this coming across? Because I feel like it would be very jarring,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
you're right. You're so right. Also, this was I hated the writing. Mal like gets kidnapped by Vasily because he like betrayed his first army thing, and then he just like
Right.
randomly comes down the stairs and he's like, I
Yeah.
escaped.
Well,
That was
he
poor
says
writing.
no, but he says, I think he says like what Jenya says. He followed a familiar like heartbeat.
Yes,
Because
he
it
he
was,
he was able to follow his way back to Alina because that's what he can do as the
yeah,
amplifier. But it just
yeah.
was like the way he like just re-entered the scene. Like I didn't appreciate the way they re-entered the scene.
I
That's what
mean,
bothered
yeah.
me.
But I
I was like,
think, yeah,
okay,
it was a little like, where have you been? And all of a sudden, oh, hey, you're here. I don't think they fully like fleshed out that he,
that
yeah,
aspect at all.
yeah.
I do love that they intertwine. When we read the books, we were questioning whether or not Nikolai actually liked Alina. And in this show, I think the actor plays it perfectly that he did. And there's a
Mhm.
scene that they have in episode 5 where Nikolai's asking how things are with Mal, and you kind of see in his face it's like not awkward for him, but kind of like pains him in a way to ask this.
Mhm.
And she doesn't
Mhm.
notice, but you pick up as an audience. I thought the actor just did a really great job of that and being able to be like, oh, maybe he does like Alina. Because we didn't
Yeah.
get that until we read King of Scars and he mentions it, you know?
Yeah. And even like there's a scene he has with Mal where Mal says like just deserve her,
Yes.
and you know that it's like gonna be more.
Mm-hmm. We get the introduction of Dominic, who is mentioned. If you didn't read King of
Oh
Scars,
yeah.
you wouldn't know who that is.
Yeah.
They were not involved in the Shadow and Bone thing because they would have been long dead by then. But instead, they kill him in the show because they like to make us cry. He's
Mm.
Nikolai's like best friend. He like grew up with him. He was put into his classes to learn with him as a way to like. It's a whole story. Read the book, but it's great. And
Yeah.
they put him in here, and he still dies for Nikolai, and I hate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so that was really sad. So this is a pivotal episode. We get to episode 6, where Bagra is saying all of the stuff with her backstory, and Mal and Alina realizing it, and Mal realizing he's an amplifier, and them having the like. I like the addition of like him realizing he's part of the family, and like that like blood thing to open the door. They do
Hmm.
change that Bagra's mom died. She said Bagra's mom in the show
Oh
died of
yeah.
pox. Where in the book she doesn't. They just go off into the woods and her mother gives up fully and starves to death. And then she just leaves her mom, which is like more tragic in my opinion.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is that we do not ever see the Firebird. Ever. Where in the
Yeah.
book they actually do hunt the Firebird. They don't kill it, but they
It's a
do see
real.
it. It's a
Yeah.
real thing. They take that out entirely. They do this cool
Hmm.
thing though, like when Alina touches Mal, like his like Firebird essence like comes out of him, which is interesting because he was supposed to be the Firebird. But they keep the Darkling wanting to attack Karemzim. Um, the
Hmm.
Darkling says something about being a boy, being betrayed, and would never do that again. And that's a complete reference to the graphic novel prequel, which was pretty cool.
That was cool.
Um,
That was a good catch.
thank you. Bagheera is smart in knowing that the Darkling would attack her, so she cut him, and she cut off his connection to Alina in his hand,
Yeah.
which I thought was
Yeah.
cool because we don't really address that in the books, like how that works. So like that was
No, they made
interesting.
it, yeah, they made it a much more like physical link. So I thought they handled that well with the two of them like going toe to toe.
And then the biggest thing is we meet an actual saint. They very much are like in the Crow's plot, where they have this whole they're being trapped up, and the person that trapped them, the collector person they're collecting the sword from, is a saint. She's a saint that's mentioned
Hmm.
throughout the books, and I think it's Saint Nayar, which I actually found fan art of because I think they're in the other book.
Yeah.
That was kind of crazy. I wasn't expecting to meet a real saint for them to intertwine this, that the saints are real, because we could question throughout the whole time.
Yeah.
So that was pretty interesting, not gonna lie to you. I'm almost done, I promise. I just have 2 more pages.
I I didn't love the Shuhan plot because I was like, isn't this hard to get to? Aren't there mountains? Like, how did we get here so fast?
We just suspend our belief about where things exist in this universe. I love the
I
plot. I absolutely
I
love the
did.
like Frozen thing. I was so emotional seeing all of their stories. I thought Tolia was so smart slowing his heartbeat. I
Mm,
was crying watching Jesper's scenes with his mother
mm,
and his like
yeah.
his pivotal arc with that and learning to be a fabricator and the importance of that. I
Mm,
loved Kaz's
that
thing
was
was terrifying. And I think it was a great way to intertwine everyone's stories. I thought it was a great plot device, personally. I was like so here for that episode. Val calls the Darkling cousin. I think that's hilarious.
that
He
was
does
funny.
not do that
Yeah.
in the book.
No.
Um, let's see.
What about someone else who dies that you
Wait,
were
I didn't get there
shocked?
yet. I didn't get there yet. Hold on. Um, Also, oh, it was just so funny. I wrote down that they all like got on a boat to like, or the boat to like fly, and Adric's like, I hope I can still squall. And I wrote down, why the hell would they just like try that now? Like, why wouldn't they check it before? Because like, what if the ship crash and burn? Which it
Right.
did
What if he
crash.
could?
Very, very cool. Okay, so Matthias. He's the one crow that is not involved actively in all their things. He's still in Hellgate,
Yeah.
and obviously they were keeping that because they were going to have the plot of him going to Fjorda. Um,
Right.
but he is involved with Pekka, which was heartbreaking, and then it comes even more heartbreaking because of the wolves.
Yeah.
Which I was gonna text you immediately and be like, Leigh, how are we gonna watch this?
Well,
There's
okay,
wolves.
so
And it was fine.
yeah, I liked that in the show, he didn't have to fight the wolves. Like the big thing in the book is that he actively has to fight them. So I appreciated that they like came to him and he could like essentially communicate with them. I thought that was a nice touch, but I'm like I didn't really care for any of those scenes in Hellgate. I like
They
I
had to
don't know.
connect him back because he would have been in
Yeah,
season 3.
and I just thought like I understand like Nina at the end, but I
She
thought it
was
was
so
stupid.
stupid. She dropped the letter.
Yeah, she dropped the list. She's just yelling like, "Girl, use your power, slow someone's heart, like do something."
Do something. Do something. Um,
Yeah.
the fold grows a lot more in the TV show than it does in the book, which is interesting.
Mm,
Um, Okay, so yeah, then we have this whole like the fold expands and they're fighting within the fold and more people are in it. We get the line from the Darkling of "Let me be your monster," which was great. He still tries to get Alina to his side. Oh, I guess I did skip over the one you're talking about. Yeah, so David dies.
David
David
gone.
dies. I don't see why that was necessary at all. I'm sorry.
No.
Like it was beautifully poetic, like the way that he like put her in there, and then they had like the shot of him there, and then like the shadows coming.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. I didn't think he was really gonna die. I think they're gonna find him later. I was like, why did he need to die? They Who are they gonna use now? He like helped
Right.
save them so much. They need
Right.
David.
I mean, maybe he was still alive. We're gonna find
We'll get
him.
to it.
I don't know.
We still have the same plot of Nina stabbing the Darkling and the whole like having to kill Mal. Um So the Darkling
Mm,
begs to have no one use his body, where in the book when he's dying, he begs Alina to like was it grieve him or like bury him, or
mm,
he's like sad to be alone. So it was a
mm-hmm,
huge change in what he was begging for in his last moments of life, which I thought was
mm-hmm,
interesting, and that connects back to the graphic novel of people attacking him to want to use his body as an amplifier. So I thought that
mm,
was cool.
mm-hmm.
Um, we have also we have that Alina brings Mal back to life,
Right.
possibly using Mal's like the bad
Rizzo's,
magic.
yeah,
Rizzo?
yeah.
Not really
Which was
sure.
like
That wasn't really clear, but
sketchy. I'm pretty sure it was because like Nina was given all kinds of looks
she's
like
like,
I know what I just saw and like that like I didn't do that.
but she said that to Kat. She
And
was like, that wasn't me.
yeah, yeah. So and I think like also given the very like last scene where like Alina uses the cut and she has this like glint in her eye, I think that was
Mm.
like, oh, we're entering villain era.
And her
So
cut was like dark. It wasn't light.
yeah, yeah.
The biggest plot device they use or foreshadow for the King of Scars duology is that when they're standing in the desert fold, they have a shot of Zoya flicking away a bee.
A
And that's
bee.
a full connection to what happens in King of Scars. So that's pretty fucking
Yeah.
cool. I absolutely love that. Like, if you didn't know, you wouldn't have caught that.
No.
Obviously, we've mentioned multiple times, Alina does not lose her powers as she does in the book after killing the Darkling. Um, so rather than Kaz gifting Inej with her family at the end of the books,
Mm,
like he brings them to Catterdam, instead he gives her a lead to follow. And she gets to get her
mm.
ship like she always wanted,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was so cute. And then I was like, I'm so confused about where this is going because some of them have a happy ending and some of them don't. I don't get what's happening.
Right.
Mal obviously becoming the new Sturmhond was a big thing.
Hmm.
They keep the monster being inside Nikolai,
Yeah.
um, which was different the way they did it. Like, I don't think he ever got wings, but they show him like in the
No.
mirror with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you mentioned to me you're waiting for him to like have claws, and he didn't.
Yeah.
Um, and
And
then
and like
oh,
in the show it was like a subtle thing. In the book, like the Darkling does it to use him.
mm-hmm,
You know, like he turns him and then Nikolai has to like
fight it.
go, yeah, and he's gone for a while. And in the show it was just like a very subtle like, oh, there's darkness in me.
And the
Uh,
biggest thing that they do at the end too was they finally introduced her to Prem because they
which was
have a
so gross.
Grisha. It was a red wedding. They had a Grisha
It
from
was
Fjorda attack and like disgustingly attack all of them,
I didn't like it. It was a
leading
lot.
up to what would have been season 3. So that's my full notes breakdown of the show. I tried my hardest to find all the little things for us to talk about here, and it was a rapid fire. I appreciate you guys listening to it. There's probably so many more. Like I think you need like a whiteboard to connect
Yeah,
the scenes for
yeah,
each one, honestly.
yeah.
But that's the best we could do. So I'm proud of it.
No, props to you for getting it all down.
I tried.
These episodes were so long. I was like, I can't. And you were taking all this time, so thank you.
Well, that's a wrap on the Shadow and Bone universe so far. The
So
books,
far,
the
we're
so
almost done.
far we're almost done. We have one more full-length episode to give you guys of reviewing the last book, Rules of Wolves. So check that out when it comes out. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, and YouTube for all the information that's coming. And join our book club. That's the best way for you to know up-to-date information on what's happening and what we're reading and what we're talking
Facts.
about. And discuss with us. So look us up on the app Fable. Thank you guys so much for diving into this medium with us. Talk about books, adaptations, TV shows, movies. Stay tuned for our next mini episode where we review The Odyssey. And more to come with these. We love a good movie, TV show adaptation. We love watching TVs and movies. So this is a big deal for us. So thank you all. We hope that you are diving into a great book for the end of summer and happy
Mm.
reading.
Happy reading.